Hello and welcome guys, my name is Victoria Kesseli. I'm a clinical psychologist, narrative practitioner and emotion-focused couple therapist. Usually on my channel I post videos about self-help, some psychological techniques, advice on how to improve your life, your relationships, etc, etc. So if you're interested, please subscribe. But today we're going to do something unusual. We're going to talk about a movie or a series of movies and books, Harry Potter, and we're going to talk about Dursley family. So prepare yourself. I thought that this video would really complement my video about emotional incest, which is one of the most popular ones on my channel, so I really wanted to complement it. Let's begin. Our characters are Aunt Petunia, Uncle Vernon, Harry Potter, their nephew and an orphan, and we have Dudley, their son. And today we are going to talk about their family system and how we can see emotional incest play out in their family and what kind of consequences it can have and why it appeared in the first place and how would I personally improve the plot from psychological perspective if I was the author. So let's begin. First of all, we have our characters. We don't know much about Vernon, but we know quite a bit about Petunia. We know that she was an older sister to Lily, who was Harry's mother, and we also know that Petunia was really jealous, envious of her sister, because first of all her sister was a witch and Petunia really wanted it. In the 7th book we have a glimpse of her writing even a letter to Dumbledore and asking him, basically like begging him to let her go study in Hogwarts as well, but she couldn't because she doesn't have any magic abilities. Then also Lily is described as a very beautiful girl and then a woman, and Petunia is described as someone not conventionally very attractive. She's described as someone very thin, with long neck, long face, and kind of resembling a horse, which is not very flattering, to be honest. I wouldn't describe people like that. But anyway, we can see that Lily is more attractive, younger sibling, favorite of her parents, and also a witch. So Petunia is very envious and jealous. And she kind of hates her sister for that, and she hates magic. And in this we can see our psychological mechanism at work, which is devaluation. So when we cannot have something, we often try to devalue it. Like for example, if you have a crush on someone and you cannot really have it reciprocated, you might devalue that person, or you might devalue relationships as a whole, or you might devalue this relationship in particular. So if you cannot have something but you really wanted it, you might protect yourself by imagining that actually I didn't even want it in the first place, only weirdos do that, I don't want that. And that's what our Petunia does. She's devaluing magic, she's devaluing her sister and this whole world, even if deep inside she really wanted to be a witch as well. However, to be honest, me from like psychological perspective, I don't find those motivations to be strong enough to explain why Petunia is so abusive towards her sister, why she's so abusive towards her sister and towards her nephew as well. I mean, not like there is ever an excuse to be abusive, of course not, but normally if you look at people who commit crimes, commit child abuse, normally they have quite a lot of trauma in their own childhood as well and in their own family as well. Normally it's kind of like generational curse that goes from one generation to another, and it's more of an exception when somebody had like perfect family and then suddenly they became an abuser in their own family. That's a bit unusual, to be honest. So if I was correcting the plot, I would do it in such a way that Voldemort and his Death Eaters kill Lily's parents and Petunia's parents. So that, I mean Harry Potter's grandparents. This way it would completely fix everything and we would understand why Petunia hates her sister, because in her mind, in her worldview, her sister brought all this dangerous magic world into their family, which resulted in her parents dying. Then also it would explain why Petunia is so scared of Harry going to Hogwarts, of Harry becoming a wizard, and why she wants to kind of get rid of it by any means possible. Because she really hates what happened to her own family. That would explain so much. Not that it would justify abuse, but it would at least let us have some perspective, and this way we could see Petunia as a complicated and interesting character, and not just kind of petty and self-centered as she is portrayed currently in this story. And also it would be interesting if Lily's parents were killed by Voldemort and his Death Eaters. That would be interesting to influence the relationship between Lily and Severus Snape, and also between Lily and James Potter. Maybe if Lily and James Potter lose their parents about the same age and they go through the grieving and support each other, maybe that's why they started their relationship and got closer with each other, and that would explain how they started dating after hating each other in the 5th book. Anyway, but let's return to the actual story. Well, in the actual story, Petunia is kind of unjustifiably petty and self-centered and jealous of her sister, and by extension of Harry Potter, and they are abusing Harry as hell. And we can see that Harry Potter in this family, he's playing the role of scapegoat. In emotional incest terminology, this is called scapegoat. This is the child or a relative who is always blamed for everything, who is always criticized, abused, seen as unworthy, seen as a bad person. And oftentimes a family system chooses one person like that to kind of release all of the aggression, stress and conflicts and direct it on one person. And this way they can feel united against this person, they can also feel more or less at peace between each other, and this is kind of like stress relief for the family, even if it sounds horrible. And Dudley, on his side, is a golden child. Golden child is someone who is very much loved by their parents, and kind of favor, and is kind of like a favorite. And you might say that this is so nice to be a golden child, to be loved by your parents to such an extent, but actually it's very, very harmful. And today I want to especially bring light to that. We understand how Petunia and Vernon and Dudley were so abusive to Harry Potter, but we don't really see it from Dudley's perspective. So today we're going to talk about Dudley and why is it dangerous and harmful to spoil someone like his parents did it with Dudley. So let's begin. First of all, what it creates quite a narcissistic worldview. For narcissists, it's common to see themselves as either amazing, genius, the best human in the world, or as horrible, disgusting, unworthy, and so on. And oftentimes they have both of those kind of split esteems at the same time. So a narcissist might jump from one to another, because someone narcissistic, they don't have kind of a realistic self-esteem. Their self-esteem is either inflated, or it's very, very low and very, very bad, or kind of jumping between the two. So for Dudley, we can see that his parents inflate his self-esteem, but it's not based on reality. They constantly praise him, constantly say how he is wonderful and smart and whatnot, but in real life he is not that exceptional. So this creates this self-esteem that is kind of like a castle in your dreams, that is not based in reality, that doesn't have a solid ground underneath. And this dream, this like inflated self-esteem can easily collapse and ruin a person's life. And we can oftentimes see such people who grow up with inflated self-esteem when they enter a real, and we often can see that such people with inflated self-esteem, when they enter the real world, they have a lot of heartache because other people don't treat them the same way. For other people, they are just like everyone else. They're not special. And this can create a lot of heartache and a lot of trouble. So first of all, they inflate Dudley's self-esteem and do it not based on anything in particular. And this can create this narcissistic trauma later on in life. Secondly, what they do, they base Dudley's self-esteem on comparison. They always compare Dudley and Harry. So you might think that, oh, this is not really harmful to Dudley because it's harmful to Harry, not to Dudley. But actually it's very harmful to Dudley as well. I have seen such cases when someone has a lot of like social anxiety or fear of judgment, and their parents were kind of nice to them. They were saying them nice things, they were supportive and so on. But then at the same time, their parents were very evil about other people and very critical. So, for example, with Dudley, they are not criticizing Dudley. They are not saying that Dudley, you are not good on this and this and this and that. But Dudley can see that his parents are criticizing everyone around them. They are criticizing motorcycles, they are criticizing people who dress weirdly, they are criticizing Harry Potter, they are criticizing someone at work, they are criticizing their neighbors and some famous people and whatnot. And by this, Dudley can see that, oh, actually people are critical. This creates this belief that people are critical, people are not kind. So I cannot really show my vulnerable self because people are going to criticize me like my parents do. And secondly, it gives such a message that, oh, Dudley, yeah, we love you, but only as long as you fit into our expectations. If in anything you resemble those other people, then you might be rejected. Of course, Dudley never really challenges that, but still, this conditional kind of love has not such good influence Dudley. So if you have children, please pay attention not only to how you are talking to your child and about your child, but also pay attention how you are talking about yourself and about people around you. Like, for example, if you're criticizing your appearance in front of your child, the child might have body dysmorphia and other like eating disorders and so on, because they kind of inherit this view of their own body from you. Or if you're criticizing someone else, your child might inherit this critical thinking towards others, or they might expect this critical thinking towards themselves. So please pay attention what you're saying around your children, about yourself and other people, not only about the child. Basically, everything you say is important. Now that you have enough pressure and anxiety as parents, let's continue. Anyway, what I was going to say. Yes, Dudley's self-esteem is based on this comparison. So he always will need someone to compare himself to. In his childhood, it's Harry. In his school, he finds some other children to bully, and this way to feel kind of more powerful. And this creates, again, very unstable, very rigid self-esteem, and it's not very flexible, it's not very adaptive. So if your self-esteem depends only on comparing yourself with someone else, it's not a very good situation. It can crash very easily. And secondly, what we can see is Dudley grows up in this understanding of hierarchy. He doesn't see people as equal. He sees that either you are more powerful and then you are in charge, or you are weak and then you are being bullied. And this is very harmful because it prevents him from building any real relationships, any real friendships. We can see Dudley having friends who are just weaker than him and just kind of serving to him. And by the way, the same kind of traumatic upbringing we can see in Malfoy, Draco Malfoy. It's a little bit similar, because Draco Malfoy also sees his friends only if they are someone beneath him. He does not accept equal friendships. And if you notice in the first book, in the first movie, how Draco approaches Harry to propose his friendship and advice. He doesn't say like, oh, let's be friends, I'm interested in you. No, he's saying, I see you are talking to the wrong people. You should follow me and I will explain to you with whom you can be friends. So Draco, by saying this, he's from the very first introduction, he's placing himself above Harry Potter. And of course, Harry doesn't want to accept this positioning. He wants to be equals with his friends. So he rejects Draco. So Draco Malfoy, as well as Dudley Dursley, they are kind of doomed to constantly seek this position of power. And because of their upbringing, they kind of don't grasp this idea that you can be just equal with someone. They strive to be the bully, otherwise they are scared of being bullied. And this, why is it bad? Because it limits our variety. In general, mental health can be described in such a way that a person is flexible and they have a very varied options of reactions and interactions with the world. So that in some relationship I can be equal, in some relationship I can be more dominant, in some other relationship I can be more on lower status. I can be sensitive and vulnerable in my personal relationships, but I can be professional and confident at work. And different roles, different ways of behaving, of talking with others, of building connection with others. And the more varied is our arsenal here, the better it is. The more flexible we are, the more adaptive we are. And the problem starts when we have only one way of interacting with the world. Like Dudley or Malfoy, they have only one way of interaction. It is either to dominate and bully, or to try to manipulate and try to kind of, from the lower position, to be kind of to kiss ass of people. Well, maybe not so much Dudley, but Malfoy. Yes. And this really limits the ability to develop communicative skills, to develop real relationships, real friendships. And by the way, this is also why bullying in school is so harmful. Not just for the victim, obviously it is harmful for the victim, but it is also harmful for the witnesses, because they develop this, well, they kind of learn their helplessness. They kind of, witness unfairness and cannot do anything about it. And this way it creates some inner conflict and so on. But we won't go deep into this. But also bullying is harmful for the bully, because when you became a bully, you cannot widen your range of interaction with people. You kind of doomed to always stay this bully. You're doomed to always play this role. Otherwise, you are scared that others would bully you, or that you will lose this position. So bullying is really harmful for everyone involved. So yes, harm to Dudley. First of all, fragile, unstable, unreliable self-esteem that will jump and create narcissistic trauma at some point. Secondly, harm to Dudley is that he cannot learn a variety of social skills. He's learning only to bully. This is his social skill. He cannot learn a variety of different relationships. He only learns to be in charge and nothing else, basically. And this is second point. And third point, what was it? Yes, that Dudley can feel that his parents are very critical about everyone. And basically that even if they are never openly critical towards him, he could still feel that if he misbehaves and so on, it can be dangerous. He might also get criticized. Yeah. And one more, what I want to say is that basically, you know, some people think that human nature is evil and that people want to create evil things and do evil stuff just for their own pleasure, and this is what human nature is. Some other people think that human nature is benevolent, that everyone is kind unless broken. We can see that from different perspectives, but one fact is that if, for example, you participate in a war, it's not only the victims or the civilians who have PTSD, and not only soldiers who are like protecting their motherland and so on. It's also the aggressors who have PTSD after war. So you can have PTSD not from just being a victim of a crime. You can have PTSD from committing a crime. And if you look, like, for example, at Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, this is basically what he's describing. Raskolnikov there, he's having PTSD symptoms and even like psychotic symptoms related to how traumatic it was for him to murder that old lady. So doing something evil, causing harm to other people, can cause our heart to break, not just our victim's heart to break. And I am leading to the fact that Petunia and Vernon, they kind of forced Dudley from early age to be that bully and to constantly hurt people. And there are two ways out of it. Either Dudley remains this narcissistic asshole person, or Dudley faces everything, all the horrible things he did, and feels sorry for them and understands how horrible he was behaving, how horribly he treated Harry and other people. And both of these options are really painful. First one is dangerous, second one is really painful and kind of cathartic. So don't force people to be bullies. It's not nice. Of course, there is still Dudley's choice, but I'm talking about Dudley in particular as also a victim of this family, because he's not an adult. He was a child. He was brought up there. He was encouraged to bully his cousin. His parents are to blame, to be honest, because they are the adults, not Dudley. Dudley is a small child. Of course, he still has some responsibility, but we can argue what is more here, nature and nurture. But I think that Dudley has more of the nurture side. He doesn't... well, anyway, let's not go too deep into that. So we can see that his parents caused him a lot of harm. But you might say, but they love him so much. He feels so accepted, so loved, so spoiled. In reality, children have other needs as well. In schematherapy, there are, I think, at least 18 different, or 15, something like that, different needs that children have. And there is, of course, need for love, need for acceptance, need for safety, but there is also need for discipline, need for boundaries, need for guidance, and Dudley doesn't have any of that. He doesn't have any boundaries, he doesn't have any discipline, he doesn't have any guidance from his parents. They're kind of just spoiling him, and he is controlling them, not the other way around. And this is actually really sad. And normally, when someone grows up without discipline, without guidance, they are likely to have difficulties with self-control. They might get into crime because of it. They might get into drug addiction partly because of it. So it's really, really harmful. And the last thing I want to talk about is that actually in emotional incest, The parent doesn't love the child as some primarily feeling. They primarily use the child for their own needs. And we can see that Vernon kind of likes Dudley to fit his image of what his son should be like, and is using him for that. And his mother, Petunia, is using Dudley as a way to kind of make herself feel better about her own childhood wounds, about her own family, about her own childhood. So instead of actually seeing Dudley as a unique person with his unique soul, with his unique life, they're both kind of using him. And I really, really liked how actors played it. You can notice in the first movie, Petunia, she's talking to Dudley with this unhinged smile that's really scary, kind of hysterical smile. And then in like 1 second, she switches into a grumpy and angry face towards Harry. And this doesn't happen when you're actually happy and smiling from actual happiness and joy. This happens when you're pretending to be smiling, pretending to be excited and loving and also wonderful. So it's more like Petunia is using Dudley to compensate for what she did not have in childhood. She is using Dudley to hurt Harry as well. She is using Dudley to feel better about herself. She is using Dudley and kind of playing in those games of abuse and golden child, scapegoat, all this dynamic. But behind this usage, she doesn't see his real soul, his real feelings. They don't really, at least I assume so, they don't really talk about some important and actually sensitive things. They don't have any actual closeness, any actual intimacy, trust, emotional connection. They kind of use each other, and this can be really painful and lonely, because people really need each other. People really need relationships. We really, really need each other. It's very difficult to live in such a family where you're not noticed, where somebody doesn't see you for who you are. Instead, they just give you 37 presents each birthday. It's really difficult to be in those conditions. And maybe Dudley doesn't realize this in his childhood, but I hope that I hope that when he gets older, he can see that more clearly. Now let's discuss what happens usually with such children. With Dudley in particular. First of all, what happens, they end up being involved in some sort of crime, because they don't have boundaries, they don't have discipline, they don't have self-control developed in their family. They get used that they can do anything without consequences. They get used to their parents kind of saving them from any kind of misbehavior, any kind of crime. And their crime normally progresses with their age. They might drive drunk and kill someone while driving, and then blame this person for crossing in the wrong way or something, or for walking too slow or too fast or something like that. They might get involved in some drug-related things, in some activity with crime. If you watch true crime, if you watch documentaries about true crime, I bet you have seen such cases. A spoiled child who grows up and doesn't understand the real consequences of their action and doesn't consider other people. They might kill them just for fancies. They might destroy someone's health just because they were, drunk and driving a car. They might rape someone because I'm a mama's boy, I can do anything I want. They can do so many different stuff. So such upbringing can be dangerous in that way. Second kind of future that Dudley might have is kind of conformist future, kind of distanced from his own feelings, emotions, and authentic like desires, because he's not really in connection with them, because he learned from his father that being in contact with your feelings is not manly, it's weak. So, and our feelings are like our guidelines that show us what we value, what is meaningful for us. So Dudley, without those, without connection with his feelings, might actually not find his place in life, might not find his meaning, and might just work in the same drill company without actually feeling like he's living a meaningful life. This is a second option. It can be also a combination of both. Something else that can happen to Dudley is that he can get better. He can have some kind of cathartic transformation. Because every one of us has a free will, even if we are brought up in some kind of toxic family, even if we have certain skills underdeveloped in our childhood, we still have a free will to practice new skills, to change our life, to think about things in a new way, to search for information, to search for help. And for such people is my channel, because if you want to change things for yourself, and if you're searching for information, you might find a lot of helpful stuff here. So Dudley still has a freedom of choice. He can still choose to kind of do this inner work. Of course, it will be longer, it can be more difficult, it can be frustrating to do this work as an adult, while others did it as children. Like, others got their limits and boundaries in childhood, so it's not so painful, and the boundaries are kind of small, so we get used to it and we develop those skills. But for Dudley, it can take some time to kind of catch up with others in those spheres. And also another option that Dudley can end up with, he might have a personality disorder. Usually it's this self-centered, egotistical, narcissistic, those kind of traits. But we don't know, because any kind of, like any kind of clinical condition, it has many factors that influence a person. We have societal factors, we have biological factors, like genetic factors and other health factors. Then we also have psychological factors. And so far, we only discussed psychological factors that influence Dudley. We did not discuss any like societal, biological, and other ones. So it is possible that Dudley might develop some kind of narcissistic personality disorder. Yeah, but we'll see. I mean, we won't see, but that's one of the options. And what else I wanted to say in the end? And I still think that the plot should be improved in such a way that Harry Potter's grandparents should be killed in some meaningful way. I mean, they should be killed in such a way that it contributes to the plot line, it contributes to other characters in that series. Because Petunia's character would be so much better if her parents were killed by Voldemort. It would just fit everything so perfectly. Yeah. And make it more complex. But it's a children's book, so maybe it's not supposed to be complex, but it's a pity. Anyway, I think we can end this video here. I bet I forgot something genius. I always do. But yeah, that's the way of life. I'll see you in new videos. Please leave in the comments what you want me to kind of review or talk about, maybe from other movies or books. That would be interesting. And check out my video about emotional incest. It's a good addition to this analysis. And I see you in the next video. Bye.